Episode 11 of Jellyfish Can't Swim in the Night. What an absolutely emotional episode. I honestly was shocked. I shouldn't be shocked. I think the writing so far, besides one issue that I had at some point, I think the writing overall has been absolutely fantastic for the series. And I love how Kiwi's story has been sort of a story that is slowly kind of unraveling and revealing into more and more details. And I think it's something that we've honestly been seeing breadcrumbed over some time. I mean, early on for Kiwi's character, it was all about this idea of, yes, she was this superhero, kind of like a Chuny character. She was a hero that wanted to save everybody, this fire of justice, and she was a leader of the pack. And then at some point, when they went to the new school, she got left behind. Everybody else was growing up, and she wasn't, and everybody kind of just shunned her. And that kind of blew up in her face to the point where she shut herself in. And it really kind of transitioned to a story about seeing her sort of coming out of that shell, coming out of her being shut in and hanging out with the others and making music. That was the big step. But there was something that was sprinkled in there. There was something about Kiwi herself and her dislike of her body. They've been hinting at this for a while now. And that one shot where she's walking down the street, she bumps into some guy and he's like, "Oh man, you're kind of hot." She didn't like it. She didn't like that this guy was ogling her body. And then cutting forward, when they were at the whole license exam thing, they were talking about the chest. And yeah, she got involved with that and was hanging out with them, but she didn't want to talk about her chest. It implies that she didn't like the way that her body was growing. And I think there's two aspects of this episode that I like so much. It's not so much that she is, getting rid of her old self. It's not as if she wants to be this new self. It's almost a feeling that she's accepting both. And I like how even Mahiro at the very end seems like she accepts both. I like the old Kiwi that is now essentially this persona. And additionally, I like this new Kiwi. I'm not going to deny who she is, nor what she wanted to create, this persona of herself. And even Kiwi herself is expressing that. I like this persona that I created, and I want to, and don't deny me this persona. I think it's almost like an interesting look into a character that is going in the direction of somebody that likes their current self, as well as this other self, this VTuber self that they project. And I think, again, with essentially what the themes have been for the series so far, has been really diving into the effects of social media and content creation and whatnot in a new world. How kids grow up in this new world of social media and entertainers and content creators, and the idea that somebody that creates a persona of themselves in order to find that outlet for what they used to be, and sort of seeing themselves as two different individuals. And why I think that's a good thing for Kiwi as herself is that she doesn't hate herself. She's not comfortable with it, and she wants to love it, but she couldn't. But at least she's not saying that I deny myself. Because I think that's like a kind of a nasty route for her to go down, because she will then hate her own body, and that kind of leads to other things like harming herself and whatnot. So I think it's a very interesting perspective to take this story. Not that I can claim that it's, I'm not a psychiatrist, not to claim this is something that's not going to be extremely bad for her in the future, but she is sort of seeing herself as two individuals. This person that I used to be, that I now created in this new background and story that I appreciate and that I love. And additionally, I have my own self that she still technically has uncomfortableness about it. Even when she's standing before those guys and one of them's looking her up and down, she doesn't like it. She says specifically, my body changed without me being able to stop it. And then I wanted to wear the clothes that I wanted to wear, but people kept staring at me. Again, it seems to be more implying the idea that she wants to be who she wants to be, but unfortunately her body's changing in a way that people are seeing her, inappropriately. They're looking at her with desire in their eyes, and she's not comfortable with that. And that's a sad reality in the idea that it seems like most of her perspective of the hatred for her body is how other people perceive it. That's extremely sad, but I can see it. I can see a lot of people, especially people that have massive growth spurts when they're very young, can be extremely uncomfortable with suddenly eyes peering at them with desire. My heart breaks for a character, or a person that is like the character that is Kiwi. Again, very cool perspective, very interesting take on her character and what it goes forward. And again, I like especially the fact that at the end, it seems to have an acceptance. But anyways, there's a lot to cover in this episode, and I've already kind of just dived mostly into one of them. But let's get into the episode proper and go through it. That way I don't miss anything. But yes, opening up the episode... It looks like Kim is doing really well with her new song, her hit new single, 2.2 million views. They're like, I should report it and take it down. No, leave it there. It's good for impressions. That kind of is one of those mixed bag things where I'm like, I almost want to say, hey, tell Kim that, hey, this is good for us, but if you're not comfortable, let's take it down. It does seem like Kim's more like, oh, well, I don't like my singing. I don't want it there. But it does seem like she changes because she kind of points out, look, people are supporting you. They like it. And I think that's kind of a cute thing. You know, we're rooting for you. I don't know who this band is, but man, that was a lot of passion behind that. They see what Kim was doing. And that's the cool thing about that whole scenario is that's what Kim was doing. She was pleading to Kano to come back. And people picked up on that. It's kind of cute. So that was great. But I did notice in that first scene, this stuck out like a sore thumb to me. I talked about this previously. The moment we had that one scene where Kiwi was talking to everybody without her VTuber model. And there was a signification in the beginning of this episode, what we finished off in the previous. The previous episode, we finished with somebody contacting Kiwi and saying, hey, is this Nox guy you? Lol, they found out who Kiwi was. She didn't mind that she was getting called out. People were figuring out who she was, but it wasn't until their old friends figured out who she was, then she was uncomfortable, and they were badgering her. And yes, they would be finding out all these secrets online where she's talking about how she was very popular and she was a student council president and everything. That stuff blew up in her face. And so, really cool attention to detail here. The beginning of this episode, suddenly Kiwi is using her VTuber model again when she's talking to the girls. Again, she finally got comfortable with showing her actual self on the phone when she's in her room. Now suddenly she's doing that again. So I thought that was kind of an interesting little touch there. That's when we get into Mahiru meeting with Yukine with her new art design. And Yukine does not like it. Now this is a very interesting thing because immediately what Yukine says is, well, tell me what you love so much about this. Because she's obviously not feeling it. She's looking at the art that Mahiru gave her and saying, this isn't you. This isn't this sensei, this artist that I love so much. So you tell me, what do you love about it? Because I'm guessing that she assumes that if Mahiru doesn't see love in it, then she won't have the passion that she likes what she draws, thus she's not drawing what she wants to draw. Now, it's interesting because I seen a comment that somebody was saying, well, what does this lady expect hiring a high schooler that has no experience? Well, that's what idol companies do. I'm sorry. Idol companies hire kids and they exploit the kids. That's what idol companies do. But we all know it's because Yukine fell in love with Mahiru's art. And so she wants that. She wants what Mahiru herself finds her passion in. But yeah, later on we get her being given a whole bunch of fixes. It's not going to be her art, but it's fine. Whatever we need is done. And eventually, of course, that leads into her, with the experience with Kiwi, basically deciding to stick with her guns and how much she appreciates Kiwi being true to herself, find that love, and making her own art. I did find it interesting because when Mahiru did the first draft, they were very much so person-sized art. Like, it wasn't chibi. And that was literally what Jelly's was. Jelly was a chibi character. And even when Yukine gives her the revisions, it's chibi characters. There was a couple of little points that were in the actual document that was criticisms that they didn't translate. A lot of it was to do with, you know, your stuff looks too old-fashioned. You know, we need a more pop look to it. But yes, the ones they did translate there was the important ones, which is basically, it doesn't look like you love what you're drawing. I like how Yukine was like, literally, yeah, you obviously don't know how to talk respectfully, and you did not do what I ordered you to do. But it's great. I love it. This is what you love. This is exactly what I was looking for. But yeah, apparently Mahiru gets up the guts to say, I want to negotiate to have Jelly at the performance. I just assumed they were going to have like maybe an aftercast scroll or something like that, or maybe, you know, probably the first couple seconds of the next episode. Yukine going, no. Like, why would Yukine say? She's already contracted with you. You can't negotiate. You've already paid in. Unless Yukine is an idiot and didn't write up the contract beforehand, if she waited for the art before she wrote up the contract, she's an idiot. She would have to, because she has a deadline. She would have to make a contract with Mahiru. So there's no reason that they would negotiate with Mahiru. And it's not like Mahiru can run off with the artwork now. And if she doesn't fulfill the contract, she's in trouble. So it's like, what reason would Yukine do that? Unless, by some odd chance, Yukine thinks that having Jelly there would be a good thing. Draw in that crowd or something. Maybe she sees a benefit to her group if Jelly is there. Like, it's free promotion that she sees benefit from. Which, technically at this point is a thing because, yes, you have so many of these videos they've been doing so far has been viral. Artists are picking up on it. They're getting a lot of attention. They might have actually surpassed what the Sundolls already have. So it technically does make sense that she might actually want to bring Jelly into the picture. But again, there's no reason why she would have to negotiate with Mahiru over this. Anyways, mixed in all that, we did have a brief moment where Mahiru does go somewhere with Melo, which was a very uncomfortable little seating inside that car. Like, I'm not going to tell you about that whole incident. No, I'm not looking into it. But what was interesting in this segment is literally like an extension from the previous episode, which I was super fascinated by Melo. Like, I so wanted to dig more into her, which kind of sucks at this point because we only have one more episode. We're probably not going to get any more out of Melo at this point, but it was a cool little insight into essentially her being kind of mad at herself. And again, they kind of indicated that with the previous episode. Oh, now Kano's got new friends. I did right? It was good that I post that stuff, right? It's like she's now wanting to seek approval from Mahiru, which I thought was a little bit off. Like, she's in the car with Mahiru, but she's assuming that Mahiru wants to bring up Tachibana. That makes sense because, yes, Mahiru is from Tachibana's group. But why randomly out of nowhere go, what do you think of this Look Idiot account? What brought this up? And it has implied at this point that she hasn't posted there in a long time. They stopped posting there the moment the incident happened. So why is she suddenly bringing it up again? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't connect to Tachibana anyway, other than the fact that Tachibana brought it up at some point, unless Tachibana coming back into her life and her mind is making her feel guilty about the fight that she had with Tachibana because Tachibana figured out about that account. Whatever. Anyways, it was an interesting little insight because literally she's bringing it up to Mahiru and asking her. Mahiru's like, yeah, that's horrible. You know, posting anonymously to defame somebody like that, disparage somebody. But I kind of do that already, so I can't really blame them. I thought this was kind of cheesy. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I think Mahiru's response to that is kind of cheesy. It's one of those things of like, yeah, that's kind of dirtbaggish. But I can't say that because that's too high and mighty because I often run off on my own whenever I'm frustrated and I vent. That's completely different than this Look Idiot account. So I'm not sure why she's even bringing that up as comparison there. But we all know what they're doing there is they're trying to show that Mahiru's kind of going, I kind of do that too. So I'd be a hypocrite if I said that. It's kind of like telling her, don't worry too much about it because everybody does that. It's still kind of weird. It's still a very weird response to that whole scenario. But again, obviously what it's doing there is kind of showing that aspect of I changed because I found somebody special. And yeah, I guess it's extending to Melo that she can change too. That she might have done that and she might feel bad about it at this point. And so she does have sort of an example of, I can change my life now. I can step away from this and stop having to vent my own frustrations elsewhere. And again, I also think there's a little bit of a difficulty there in the idea of how Mahiru comes to this conclusion that this person on Look Idiot is venting their frustrations. Yes, I guess you can get the inference or the feel of how they're posting is that frustration in there. But I don't know, it seems like a gossip channel. It's like, look at them. They're doing exactly what they shouldn't be doing. Look at them. It's not so much, and again, she could have been looking at a lot of posts that were done by Melo as Look Idiot and got a sense that this person has, like, you know, anger issues and she's venting, which you can get a sense from some people online, I think. But I don't know, the whole conversation, while I do like the concept there and I like getting more insight into Melo and her difficulties that she's running through, or insecurities really is what it is, it felt off. That conversation felt really off and it felt kind of forced. So anyways, that aside, on Kano's side, of course, it's Kim basically trying to push into Kano that she needs to find something new to write for. And I kind of assumed the moment that we had this whole struggle of what she's going to write to, I figured it was going to go two different directions. One was going to be that she wants to write a song that gets Mahiru's attention. So she wants to sing for Mahiru again, but this time is to basically call Mahiru back. But I think at this point, they've almost established through proxy that that's not an issue anymore. Like, they don't hate each other. Everybody's still keeping Mahiru in check and still keeping her informed. They're still communicating to her. Mahiru and Kano, unfortunately, are not communicating still. But nobody hates each other. So the moment that Mahiru is done, she's obviously going to come back to them. So I don't think that she needs to sing to Mahiru. She could have. Again, this could be the big, massive confessions moment at the very end of the season. But yes, the obvious one that was more, keen in my mind was if she's going to change who she's singing to, because obviously when she wrote back here at Halloween, she was writing for Mahiru. So if she has to change it, she's going to probably change it to, I don't know, her mom. So it seems like her next song, she wants to communicate to her mom. And I'm very curious of what that'll turn out to be, because It's sad, and it could be they're going to announce another season. I kind of doubt it, because we rarely ever get 2-seasoned originals. We have a lot of threads open at this point, and I'm probably getting more into that later on, but yeah, we don't know where the dad is. The dad could probably show up at the concert if they end up having the concert there, but her song itself has a lot that it can jump into. It can jump into loving her mother, despite the fact that her mother doesn't seem to love her, and she wants to be loved, and feeling that she's never good enough for her mother, or maybe to apologize to her mother for not being good enough because she's going to be self-deprecating of herself. It could be in the idea of wanting her family back, the father back, and them all being together again. There's so many things she can get into because there's so many threads around Kano that are unfinished. It could all wrap up in one episode, we'll see, but Kano's story is extremely unfinished at this point, and so that could all be culminating into that one song, which, if done really well, which I'd be really shocked if it does, it could be really good. But we'll see. But yeah, that's when we get into Kiwi herself, which I've covered most of this. But yes, essentially, Mahiro contacts her about this artwork. She says, yeah, it's going to be over at this storage location. Okay, I'll go by myself. Just call them beforehand. She's like, no, I'll go with you. You're afraid for me, aren't you? And yeah, it kind of indicates right here, Mahiru's like, yeah, I assume that you're getting these messages too. I'm getting these messages from our old friends. They're bickering about you and what you're doing and everything, how you're lying. And yes, Kiwi's been getting it too, but she's keeping it a secret. Always the hero, Kiwi. She doesn't want Mahiru to know that she's struggling. She's obviously in pain. She's obviously frustrated. And she doesn't want to put that on Mahiru because she wants to be the strong self that she's always been. And that's kind of that sad reality of people that keep this front on that's strong, is they never show their emotion or their weakness, thus nobody can help them. And that kind of sucks. But yeah, that kind of extends to them going to there. We get this cool little kind of insight into their past that, yes, Kiwi used to be really good at art. That was kind of a shocker there, that they were looking through the art and she says, here's the jellyfish one. And I like how Mahiru is actually criticizing it. Like, yeah, the colors are off and everything. It kind of shows how she's learned. She's learned new techniques and she's learned about coloring and whatnot. So she's able to kind of criticize her own work. And yeah, Kiwi even points that out herself. She completely agrees. She knew it as well. Because yes, Kiwi used to be really good at art. Like up until 3rd grade, she was drawing really well. But here she's kind of pointing out that I was always quick to pick up things and get really good at it. But anybody that tried and put in the effort and practice would outdo me every single time. So she chose at some point, I'll just give up things before I get beat. And it's kind of you can draw some conclusions about this and her personality itself, and the idea that, yeah, she perfected something and at some point she got outdone. You could probably apply that to their younger selves, the idea that she was the perfect leader and everything like that, and at some point everybody else grew up past her and she was no longer special anymore. And yeah, that can extend to her own skills and everything. So it's kind of a sad thing to kind of get into there, that she has this kind of insecurity about her own talents and how other people can outdo her. That kind of extends over to, hey, we're going to go to the arcade to see if that stuff's still there. And yeah, sure enough, just so happens, all these people that have been texting her suddenly all show up there at the same time. And yeah, we get into pretty much the confronting of what Kiwi has been going through for quite a while. And the idea that they're sitting there bickering about how, oh, you have that girl in your group too, the Kiwi. Yeah, she's a liar, whatnot. And Mahiru obviously trying to step up for her and stand up for her. And then Kiwi finally, after hearing Mahiru say that she's great and everything and a hero, she has to say something. And again, the moment that she walks up there, I think this is where all the tension builds up for me. And it just doesn't let go all the way until the end. I think my only frustration with the scene is that, similar to every other Outburst scene in this series, they cut scenes. I acknowledge that everything really does this, but it's really frustrating to me because you don't get the sense of what happened in the end. She literally screams her lungs out, says, don't deny this from me. And literally the writers and the director and everybody says, let's deny you the conclusion. Now, yes, it's implying nothing's changed. They probably laughed and walked out the door. Who knows? Or said she's crazy and walks away. Like, she's creeping me out, let's get out of here. It's going to get worse from this point on. But at least she got it off her chest. But anyways, yeah, I think the moment she walks up there, that's when the tension really builds, because immediately, again, like I said before, what they've been breadcrumbing this whole time is she doesn't like her body. She doesn't like how her body has grown. And mostly they point out the idea of her chest size has grown. And yeah, immediately the guys are checking her out. She doesn't like it. And again, the idea here is that they're all saying, we've seen your model. Why don't you stream like a normal person? Why did you create this character? They look like a boy. All these things. Oh, are you one of those people that wants to be a boy? All these insults are throwing at her until eventually she finally, again, confesses all that issues that she has, that at some point her body kept growing and she didn't like it. She wanted to wear what she wanted to wear, but every time she did, people looked at her. And again, it's that desire, that those eyeballs of desire that are constantly on her, and she was not comfortable with it. And that's what drove her to hiding herself away. But again, there's like a two aspect here. One being the idea that I think that she created her VTuber model because she wanted to continue to be this hero of justice. But additionally, she also created the ideal body that she wanted, which is this body that's more, yes, very flat. And yes, very much so boyish. She wanted to be a hero. She didn't want to be feminine. She didn't want to have a big chest. She didn't want to have people ogling her all the time. That's probably why she would never actually live stream with an actual camera on herself, is because they would probably be looking at her chest the entire time. It's that sad reality she finds extremely uncomfortable. And so she created this other self that she can then go out there with. And again, be the hero and the strong person that she's always seen herself as, that her school and her friends and everybody has left her behind. Again, going to this new school and nobody wanted to have a thing to do with that. They were all looking at cute stuff, and everybody's looking at her like she's crazy. Oh, she's one of those chuny characters. One of those people that just thinks that they're a hero of justice. We left that back in middle school. What are you doing? It's super, super sad. But again, it's great that it's a culmination of everything all put into one. It was a nice kind of wrap up for Kiwi's character. Not that it's it for her character, because I think she has herself as a person, a lot of places that she can go from this point on. Again, I'm no psychiatrist, but I'm kind of questioning the idea of somebody essentially having two selves. It seems like she's self-aware of it. So I don't think that, again, not being a psychiatrist here, I don't think it's a bad thing because she's aware of it. She's aware of who she herself is, that she doesn't seem to like, that she doesn't like how her body is. And I would hope that eventually she can come to accept that. But at the same time, she does seem to not see herself as that is me, but that's a persona of myself. This persona that I created that I love. So again, I love how, again, later on, Mahito kind of accepts both of them. These are her two selves, and I love them both. She's brave, and she was able to come to grips with that. I didn't miss anything else in that segment. It was a really good segment. It's super emotional. Like I said, the voice actress, she absolutely nailed it. I hope she didn't blow out her throat just screaming like that. The top of her lungs, like so much emotion behind it. It sucks to get mocked for saying that you love the things you love. Again, I think that was a lot to do with her desire for essentially being the hero and everything, and liking being the hero. And again, everybody kind of growing up and leaving her behind. Body keeps growing on its own. When you wear the clothes that you like, people stare. Again, that uncomfortableness that she has, you don't know how that feels. But she still didn't want the world to get the better of her. She couldn't even go to school, and she hated herself for that. That's a really big key statement there. That's a very hurtful statement that she's willing to kind of get out there, is that I wanted to go, and I hated that it didn't go. I wanted to love who I am as Kiwi again. I tried, and I tried, and I couldn't. That's why she created her whole new self, basically. She created this persona that she can be a part of. And again, I think that it is kind of putting it that she doesn't hate herself. Again, I think that she just doesn't like the idea of how people perceive her. It is a hatred for what people see her as. And again, I think that a lot of that has to do with just not liking that look of desires that people have of her. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I covered all the stuff with Mahito, and that kind of wraps it up. Really, again, very emotional episode. Looking forward to seeing how they're going to wrap up this entire season in one episode. Again, we pretty much have everything around Kano, her father, relationship with Yukine. You can even mix in there the aspect of Melo and her relationship with Kano, but I think that that's probably a nothing thing. Like, I don't think they're going to really get into much details there. I think Kim's pretty much been well wrapped up. Kiwi obviously had a really nice wrap up, even though there's much more to her. I think obviously Mahito and Kano have to kind of wrap things up between the two of them. Again, the future of Jelly, if they're ever going to be doing Jelly ever again, I'm assuming they are. There's a lot to kind of get into with one episode, and I hope that they wrap it up well, but we'll see. But I'll be here for the finale next week. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure that like button down below, comment. Let me know what's thought of the episode. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button, skip my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you like this content and you want to support the channel more, I have a Patreon link, tips, links, super links, membership button down below. Really appreciate it, but it does. And you all take care.